Hello and welcome. This is my review of the Tyranid force found in the Leviathan box set for Warhammer 40,000 from Games Workshop. Now, just as I did with the Space Marine force, I did say I would review all of the Tyranids in their entirety as a separate review. Although I won't discuss all of their rules, I will move from unit to unit and give you my opinions and how I feel about their place in the force. Speaking of which, what a force. This force is very impressive. I prefer this force to the Space Marine makeup, mainly because there's only one unit that I view as a bit weak. I think you probably can guess which unit that is, and that is the Neuro Gaunts. More on them later on. Let's get straight in there and talk about the HQ. The Winged Tyranid Prime, or a poor man's Winged Hive Tyrant. And when I say that, I really do mean it, because it's like a mini Winged Hive Tyrant. It has almost half the toughness. It has a way worse save of a 4+ instead of a 2+. It has fewer wounds at 6 instead of 10. And its objective control is only 1. I'm not a massive fan of the HQ in this force. I never have been from the very first photos of it. I'm not sure why the wings are there and in that pose. I would have preferred the wings outstretched. I understand that it's much more difficult for them to model that, and it may have increased the price and, you know, put that on the sprue and things like that. But as a standalone HQ, I do feel that it is a bit weak. Yes, Games Workshop played it safe with the Space Marine Terminator, with the Space Marine Captain in Terminate armour, and he is a bit dull compared to, you know, creating a brand new unit for Tyranids. But I still feel that even though they played it safe with that HQ, it's a better HQ. Following on to my, I say, joint favourite models in the set. I've definitely been put off a bit by the Screamer Killer recently, but my favourite units in the set, of course, are these Von Ryan Leapers. I wasn't sure of them to begin with. I thought they were just, again, a poor man's Lictors. They're going to look great with the new Lictors and maybe Dua Lipa, but they were very fun to put together, and I can always tell when a model is fun to put together, because I'm left wanting more. I'm left thinking, I'm left with that feeling of, where's that 4th model or the 5th model? I need to go out and pick up another set of 3 of them. They were great fun to build, lovely to put together, and they look great too. So I've got big hopes for that Lictor model. That could be the hero model of this upcoming release. I mean, they're not too bad as well rules wise. You know, they've got a 10-inch movement. They're quite tough at 5. They've got 3 wounds. They have that invulnerable save, which, you know, it's only 6+, but it might work out. And their melee weapons are all right. You know, they get 6 attacks each, 3+ to hit, and a strength of 5. Yes, their AP is only -1. Would have been nice at AP -2, but you know, you are getting 18 attacks with just 3 of them. So they do punch above their weight, I believe. Moving on to a big Gribbly, of course, I've already mentioned it. One of my favourite models in the set, although it's a bit of a pain to put together. I think they definitely cheaped out on the design a little bit, because there are gaps and not many parts at all. But it is big, and it is the biggest unit for Tyranids. It'd be interesting to see how much bigger or smaller the Norn Emissary is. I believe, looking at some pictures, that's going to be smaller than people think. But I do like what they've done to it, other than maybe parts of the face. I think it works. It pays a decent homage to the old metal miniature, which definitely gave a few people nightmares. It's a big Tyranid Gribbly, and we need to see more of them. It's a shame we're only getting the Norn Emissary and not something even bigger, like a Dimacheron type unit or a Knight equivalent. Hopefully, if these Tyranids prove successful, they may invest in, you know, larger models. Speaking of the rules of the Screamer Killer though, It is tough at toughness 9, it's got that 2+ save, it's got the 10 wounds, and the melee weapons are horrific. You know, 10 attacks at a strength 10, AP 2, damage 3 is really going to rip apart anything it comes into combat with. And the bioplasmic scream is, you know, very lethal at strength 8, and potentially having those 9 attacks with it. Worth being cautious if you're within charging range of one of those. Another kind of big Gribbly that is new to the set is the Psychophage. They kind of invented a new bug that is, you know, first and foremost wants to go about eating psychers for some reason. Yes, you know, there's advent of psychers in the 41st millennium, and certainly more psychers than ever before, especially with the Cicatrix maledictum and the way humanity is going. But this Gribbly is an odd one because it's quite tough. It has a fair number of wounds, it's got a good save, it has a Psychoclastic Torrent, which is a 12-inch ignores cover range weapon, and its melee weapons are alright, you know, strength 6, potentially 7 attacks. So it's an odd unit, great if you're against a Psyker or two, as it is an anti-Psyker 4+ and does have devastating wounds. Moving on to the other sort of Psyker unit. It's odd that there's an anti-Psyker creature in this force and then an actual Psyker unit in the force, and that takes the form of a Neurotyrant. Normally you're used to kind of tyrants being these big, you know, winged things or Swarmlord size creatures. This is a Neurotyrant, so you are getting a tyrant in this set. Again, it's not as big as I expected. I you know, looking at all the material and going back to the trailers and things, was expecting this to be probably double the size, a big brain bug. It does have a good toughness, and it does have that invulnerable save and a decent number of wounds and high objective control, as you'd expect from a tyrant unit. It's a Psyker, and of course it has some psychic weapons like the Psychic Scream, which is unfortunately quite a short range weapon, and it has some small melee weapons, but the main reason you'd pick it is because it is a leader, some psychic abilities, as well as being synaptic relays as well. Your mileage may vary with the new Neurotyrant. A new unit that I was really excited about, and they're not too bad to put together too, they're just a bit, I say, boring, are the Barb Gaunts. I really had high hopes for these Barb Gaunts, but they're a little bit of a letdown. Maybe I'm using them wrong, but the biocannons just seem a bit lackluster. It's nice that they're blast and they're heavy and they're 24-inch range. It's not too bad, but I would have preferred them to have, you know, 30-inch or even 36-inch just to give a bit more cover and fire. As it stands, you know, you've got your normal intercessors with those 30-inch bolt rifles, just, you know, sniping them off really. But one of the key strategies you're going to use these for is their disruption bombardment ability, where you can knock off 2 inches of the movement against any enemy really within the range. So that's going to slow your enemy down to go into close combat with them, which I think is a great ability to have, and I'd like to see this more on kind of ranged focused units. We're not going to save the best till last. Well, we've already seen the best, which are the Von Ryan Sleepers, but let's just go and talk about my least favourite unit of the set, the Neuro Gaunts. Again, these, I expected these to be a fair bit bigger, at least the size of Warhammer Gaunts or even Termagants. I mean, bigger than what they are on. They're the smallest minis in the whole of the set, on the 25mm bases as well. They're just weak sauce. They've got a toughness of 3, their save is 6+, their strength is 3, they've got no AP for melee. The only use you're going to have with them is that while the unit is within synapse range of your army, it has the synapse keyword. That's, you know, you can't even call them like a swarm unit, because again, weak strength, 1 attack, they're just very, very weak. The Termagants, on the other hand, have had a bit of an improvement. They, I believe, are bigger and definitely more detail, and you get a whopping 20 of them with a couple of Ripper Swarms. although both the Gene Stealers and these Termagants look like they are monopose minis in their individual sets, I'm yet to confirm that in person, I'm still going to be picking up a box of Termagants, maybe even a second box. We'll see how those sprues look when we get them. But I think these are great. They're no nonsense. You can get a Tervigon and still birth these out of it. You know, again, they're weak at toughness 3, but their save is a 5+. It's better than the Neuro Gaunts. Their objective control is 2. Some of them do have ranged weapons, a number of ranged weapons. Some are assault 18 inches at strength 5, and some are twin link pistols that are hitting on 4+. But the melee weapons are pretty weak. You're best off swarming your opponent and firing point blank. Also, they have this Skulking Horrors rule where if an enemy unit ends a normal, advance or fallback move within 9 inches of the unit, if the unit's not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, it can make a normal move up to D6. So you're getting that extra move within your enemy's turn. And if you've got 40 of them, yeah, that's going to look a bit scary, just to overwhelm your opponent. So on the whole, I'm pretty happy with the Tyranid force, other than those Neuro Gaunts and the questionable rules of the Barb Gaunts and the Tyranid Prime, but that's a personal opinion on that. I'm quite happy with the force. I think it's better than the Space Marine force, which they've played it safe, but maybe too safe with having 10 Infernus Space Marines and yet another Lieutenant. My favourite unit are the Von Ryan's Leapers. I think they're awesome, but a close second would have to be the Screamer Killer or even the Psychophage. Would I change anything in this set? Yeah, I'd completely get rid of the Neuro Gaunts and I would put 10 Gene Stealers. That would have been fantastic, or even a Lictor, but then you're kind of not really balancing the force out there by having too many sort of single minis. What do you guys think of the Tyranid force in the Leviathan box set? Which is your favourite model, and what would you have liked to have seen in this army instead? Please do put your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. It'd be great to hear from you. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for watching. For the Norn Queen.